Okay, let's look at the PC to PLC connection options. As I've said many times, the biggest obstacle you'll have is making the initial connection to the controller. You have to establish a data connection. So if you look here, you'll notice that we have a serial connection, Ethernet, Wi-Fi connection, and we have a simulation. So simulation is all internal, no external connections are made. So let's look at serial. Okay, what I've got is a micro USB cable. I'm going to plug that into the computer, and you'll see instantly a COM port pops up. So COM24 is a virtual serial port. It will let me connect to the controller and upload, download programs. So another issue that pops up is an error message about not being able to save a program in a certain location. So the default project location is sometimes not a good location. What you can do is browse for a location that you like, let's say under the document folder, and just type in, let's just say test project. Okay. And you'll notice that it picks up my project path. Now it is correct. So I can go ahead and keep going. So I'll configure my I/O. I am connected to it, so I can do an auto configure. Okay, and it picks up a module. And at this point, I can go ahead and click to start designing. Okay. So I get my default screen. I like to right click and turn off the labels so I have more space to work. And here's where I would just start to build my program. If you need additional blank rungs, you right click, insert new rung below, and just add a few blank lines. Okay. So let's say that you don't want to use the USB anymore. You go back to PC to PLC COM, click on Ethernet, unplug my serial cable. So this controller is, I put an IP address of 192.168.2.200, which is fine. So in order to talk to that, I need to set up my network interface card on the same subdomain. So it needs to have an IP address of 192.168.2. something, like maybe 2.77. So I'm going to say that this is okay for now. And let me see if I can open the network. I kind of doubt it. I'm going to have to show that in a separate video. But if I had my IP address set up on my network interface card, I could then upload and download through Ethernet. Okay. So let me make a separate video, and I'll see if I can piece them together to make a finished product. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is how to change the network interface connector IP address. Okay, so if you look at Windows down here in the lower right-hand corner, you can right-click on the Wi-Fi signal strength indicator, open the network and internet setting bar. Okay. So I have Wi-Fi on this laptop. I've got Ethernet ports as well. If you don't have Ethernet ports, you can buy a USB to Ethernet adapter. They're widely available on Amazon or eBay. For just a few dollars, you can buy one of those. So I'm going to use my Ethernet connection because that's what I've got. I will double click or click on that. I need to change my adapter options. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. This is my Ethernet port, so I'm going to double click. What I'm interested in are the Tcp Ipv4 settings. So I'm going to double click on that. And you can see that this one is already set up 192.168.2.77. Typically, when you start up a laptop, it's got DHCP, so it picks up an address from your router or your switch. So we have to manually tell it that we need an address that has the proper subnet values on it. So let's go back to 77. The default is 255.255.255.0. What that does is it looks for internet address, IP addresses with that match up the first three with the last one being variable. Okay. If it changes to a 0, sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't. It just depends on the software. On this one, I'm pretty sure I have to make it a 255, so it doesn't check for the 2 right there. So let's say okay. Now we're going to close that off, and that's all there is to it. If I was doing Wi-Fi, if I had, let's say, a wireless access point, I could change the Wi-Fi settings to do the same thing. I would just match it up with the IP address of the PLC so that I can find it when the software opens looking for the controller. Okay, so let me save this portion of the video. Okay, so in the previous short video on changing the network adapter settings, you noticed that I put it to 2.77. So this is 2.200 is my PLC. So I think I'm going to say click to start designing. And to make sure that I can see it, I will click on this blue I button, which is information. So when I get this response, it tells me that I can talk to that controller. Okay, I'm on the proper subnet. I can see it. I'm going to say OK. This is a blank program, but I'm going to download it anyway. I'm going to write to the controller and start. And just click my way through. It's going to ask a few questions. Do I want to stop it? Do I want to start it? Yes. Okay, so it is running, but it has a blank program right now. So getting the communications is the first step to be able to use the controller. If you happen to have one that's out of the box, brand new, what you have to do is connect to the USB and run this Ethernet setup option where you tell it the IP address of the controller itself. Let's see if I can get there. Well, I can't. Once you're running off of Ethernet, you can't change the IP address over Ethernet. So you have to go back to the serial connection to do that.